my friends, to the virtual boot room. We are back again here for another week. We are scaled down a little bit this week. It is just myself and Paul coming at you to talk Football Manager. How you doing this week, Paul?
I'm good. I'm good. No guest. Very sad. Very sad. But I
Well,
thought,
sometimes we got to throw a mix back into it. Go back to our roots to just us shooting the breeze about what's going on and what our thoughts are in Football Manager. Plus, I thought with this week's topics, it was best not to have too many people here to rain on your parade and kind of lump it on a little bit. I thought this would be better if it was just a smaller conversation with you as we talk. So we'll get into that a little later, but just so that we can set the stage a little bit here.
can I jump in and say before the topic gets brought up that if I could pick a co-host for this discussion after the previous weeks, it would probably not be yourself.
Well, fair enough. I promise I will make this promise now to everyone listening. There will be no ragging on Bram Ellison tonight.
Yeah, we'll see.
Scout's honor. Scout's honor. I promise we will not rag on Bram tonight.
Okay.
So, um, but we are back here for another week to look deep into the heart of our Football Manager playing and what's going on out there,
Okay.
and
Very
share our.
intense. Deep
Well,
into the
this is a
heart.
this is a heavy episode, so we'll get into it a little bit here. So for those who
Just say
haven't,
it. Just say it. You know you want to
well,
say it.
I'm gonna set the stage. So
Okay.
for those of us who do watch your series regularly, and for those who haven't or may not have caught up, this week was a heavy week. Episode 33, I believe, was last Monday when it came out, and I know as we had talked in previous weeks, you were pretty sure that your first season in the conference premiere was going to ride out. It was going to be dull. It was going to be boring. Nothing interesting. You were just cruising episodes so you could get to the summer and kick on to the next season. And the worst of all things happened to you. You got the drop. So what I wanted to talk about this week is it happens, right? Everybody who plays this game at some point gets bounced down a division. It just
Well, unless your save crashes or you get distracted and accidentally start something new.
touche. Although I wonder if Sports Interactive collects statistics on the number of times save crash just before relegation happens, but we can always
Coincidence.
yeah, we can always look at that another time. But you got the drop. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was if anybody's watched the episode, if you haven't, I highly recommend episode 33. It's an emotional experience, right? You're in it, you're invested, you're up, you're fighting tooth and nail, and that thing that you just don't want to have happen happened. And if you see it on the episode, I mean, it clearly hit home. So the question is, how do you deal with it, right? You're sitting there, you're playing the worst possible thing that that you could have had happen next to getting sacked happens. How do you get yourself worked up to rebuild over the summer and go at it again the next season?
We're talking about myself and not like what I do within the game.
Well, it's yeah, just
Um,
you, right? I mean, if anybody watched, right? I mean, it clearly rattled you, right? I mean, you can talk a little bit about that if you want, but at least from a viewer's perspective, you could tell you weren't really expecting it, and it hit hard. How do you get yourself like, I mean, the save you built it. It obviously means a lot to you. You've invested a ton of time into it, and all of a sudden you get sort of smacked upside the head with a brick. And how do you get yourself back in?
well, I think when I, because the relegation happened before the last game of the season, which again was never really expected. So it was at a point where I was not recording when the relegation was confirmed. I really did think we could get to the last game of the season and have a shootout live to see if we could survive. And it was one of them days where you just kind of nothing's going right. You dominate a game, then you concede a late goal. You have a set piece, you get countered. They have a shot, it rebounds. Their guy stood there and it just lands at his feet, and at that point you're ready to scream. Um,
Mm, that would be the truth.
it was a frustrating season, I would say, throughout. I don't like to just jump on the game because at the end of the day, it's my fault we went down. But there was just so many of them occasions where the goal would never happen in real life. The goal, you're looking at it and you're just like, really? Like, I remember back there was a game where we conceded 5 goals and every single goal had an issue in it. And I think at that point, I remember thinking, how do I go about this episode? How do I get myself up for the episode? Then I kind of said to myself, well, I would be lying to the people watching if I come out and go, hi guys, what's going on? Yeah, oh yeah, we went down, but don't worry about it. So I kind of said to myself, look, just get to the day, the end of the season, get to the point where you can review things, then just hit record. Don't go away and like have a break from it. Do it now whilst the emotion's still there. Do it. Make sure I personally made sure I did not take a break between the finding out of relegation and recording of the episode. It happened, I think, maybe 30 minutes later. So I wanted to kind of get to that point and make sure that my initial feelings were caught on camera. And yeah, I mean, it hit hard. It was not what I expected. I mean, I got relegated a few times with FC United Manchester last year, but it was a lot higher up. It was the
Sure.
bounce between the Championship and League One. To go back down to the Conference North, it was soul destroying in terms of the fact that financially we screwed. It's taken me months and months and months of scouting players, trying to find players, and we now the following season, which we're going to talk about in a bit. I don't even have the money to actually scout players anymore.
Mm,
So if a player cannot come in on trial, I can't sign them because I can't see how good they're gonna be if I'm looking at a dead horse, a three-legged horse, or a four-legged horse which is about to run in the Grand National. I don't know the difference because I can't see anything. Um, but I mean, to get myself back up for it, I think that's where I don't. There'll be many, many people in the community the same as me. I'm 29. I'm 30 soon. I've been playing Football Manager since '97. It's passion. It's passion for playing the game. This game takes me away after a stressful day of work or stressful day at home, and after at the end of it, I mean, what better way to relax than to pull your freaking hair out playing Football Manager? Um, I mean, my girlfriend always laughs at because I'll come down and some nights we'll watch like a series or something, and I'll play with Football Manager first while she's just doing stuff downstairs and stuff. And I'll come down now. She'll see sometimes I'm a bit frustrated. Sometimes I'll come down elated about something, and she'll always say, "What's the matter?" And she goes, "Why'd you play that game?" And I'll say, "Do you know what? I genuinely couldn't imagine sitting back and saying, do you know, I don't play football much. I mean, people know that I manage a team in real life. So I'm doing this for a job. I get paid to do this in real life, but I still come back to this as my stress relief, Colin. It's my time away from the real world to just kind of enjoy gaming. Gaming's a big passion. So when I got relegated, my first thought was, we're gonna come back, we're going to rebuild. I've set myself a target in terms of how long it's going to take because I don't just want to throw everything. But as I say, we can't afford scouts. We can because there's no block on that in Football Manager. But with our finances at the minute, there's no way in real life the club would fund this guy to go off and scout players with the money we don't have. So I put a block on that in the game as well.
hmm. Well, so I think the realism you play with is certainly a very unique in it. But it's interesting, as you said. You're in this situation where it's raw, right? You were fighting, you held on, you got to the best place that you could. It didn't work out. Now you're ready to fight. I think, and we'll talk a little bit deeper in a minute on how you really go forward. But as a question I'd want to know is did the I don't know the suddenness and the impact of it help you be more critical of what you were looking at when you said, when you were really looking at the team and the season and saying, look, this is what we really need to do to improve? Did it give you a certain sort of sharpness as you were analyzing your team, looking at, every position? Does this guy really deserve to be here, or is he just a bum and needs to get out of here because we don't have any room for entitlements and you're not the guy for me?
Um, in the review process of it, I spoke a lot about, well, this guy didn't step up, he's probably going to have to go, and that's Dan Maguire, who, in the Conference North, he scored for fun. We got promoted, I think he scored something like 4-6 goals all season. But then when, over the summer period, he went from a paid contract to a pay-as-you-play contract, so he ended up staying. And that actually happened with a lot of my team, because we went into the following season with only 5 or 6 players actually on paid contracts, mainly due to the finances. Now there was a bit of a anger towards a lot of the players in terms of, you let me down big time. But what I tried to do was look at that in this situation. Could a club afford to throw them all away and rebuild? No. The club would say, look, we've gone down because of you. You are going to take us back up, but we're now not going to pay you. So I dropped most of them to non-contracts. 90% of them got a chance to kind of show me what they can do again. And Dan Maguire, for example, this year is my top goal scorer. He's knocking them in for fun again now. But if I go back up, will I stick with him? I don't think so. And what I will say is, this year, I've definitely, I would say, done what you said in terms of being a bit more hard on the players, and a couple of players, my right winger Bridges, who come through the youth academy, he's leaving at the end of the season. He's transfer listed, and he's not played for most of the season now, because he complained he wanted to leave. So I just basically said, right, you're just not going to play a game for me then. And one of my central midfielders had a poor start to the season, so I dropped him for somebody who had just signed, gave him a chance, and he's really stepped up. But no, over the summer I didn't really make drastic changes, Colin, in terms of being kind of hard on myself, critical on the team, critical on myself. I definitely knew where we went wrong and why we went down. Goals, I thought our fullbacks let me down a lot, which is quite funny because I didn't actually sign any new ones. That wasn't by choice, can I just say. I was dramatically, whatever the word is, searching for fullbacks all summer. We've actually changed tactic now to a wing-back tactic, which is, when you listen to this, you people would have seen it. It's on yesterday's and today's episode. We're now playing a 5 at the back with wing-backs, and that's mainly due to a winger I signed who can play wing-back, Evans from Chester, who I actually was touting for the first 3 seasons, trying to convince him to come to us, and now in season 5 he is now with the club, and he alone forced the formation change, because even though he's best as a left winger, because of how bad my left back and right back were playing in terms of a lot of the mistakes were from them, the tackle percentage was so low, I decided to play wing back and then 3 centre backs, and it's definitely helped me. Second half of the season, we've turned form around massively. We're playing 2 up front still, and that's a big help. And I think definitely going up next season, 2 up front will just offer so much more, and I actually think that will keep Dan Maguire scoring. But the only issue now is since we've gone back down, one of my strikers who's looked good for a couple of years has just not been doing it this year. In terms of a support role as a striker, so I need to kind of look for somebody who will give the ball to Dan Maguire for him to put in the back of the net.
Interesting. Yeah, so something that you touched on that I want to explore a little bit because I had a similar affair in this particular off season was that catalyst for changing tactics in response to where you landed, right? So for me, my issue, and if you watched the run in on season two, you'll know that we got to February and just went on a disastrous run. We hemorrhaged goals. We couldn't get out of our own way if you paid us to. And I spent a whole mess of time in the off season really looking at what to do formation wise. And there was a couple of guys that I found mostly in the attacking center mid and striker core where I said, I mean, we just couldn't score. If and I will admit the striker we signed from Bordeaux last year. You said no, don't do it. I said, yeah, let me think about it. I needed something. I said, screw it, let me do it. And it turns out he was just terrible. We just couldn't score. He was unholy bad. Good news is transferring him to Saint Etienne. He seems to have found his stride and woke up and can score goals again, which pisses me off to absolutely no end. But that catalyst for figuring out a new formation, because a lot of times, and I've done it myself, right? You finish a season, it was okay, and you look at it and go, well, you know what? Let me just get better players. I'll use the same tactic. I'll use everything. Let me just upgrade my players, and everything will get better in the next season. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But this time when I was looking at it, I said, like our issue defensively, we were pretty solid. Okay, fine. We fell apart at the end of the year. Not entirely unexpected given the high percentage of youth, younger players that I'm playing with that we're going to get tired and sort of fall apart. But it really said, you know what, we're not doing something right. We need to change and do something different. So what I tried to do was preserve, I had a back five scheme where I was really happy with, sort of the back four and the defensive midfielder. And then I said, let me see if I can reshuffle the rest of the pack and see what I can do. And I ended up netting out, and I'm sure some percentage of the world will be disappointed, is we're playing a 4-4-2 as well as a 4-4-2 diamond, narrow diamond,
I
depending
saw that.
on.
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, you know what, oddly enough, I landed on the diamond purely with, similar to you, I said, I'm just not scoring enough goals, so I wanted to put two at the front and see what I can do. I'm really attached to the defensive midfielder. So, that sort of 4-2-3-1 thing doesn't really fit with that. And I will go on record now, I refuse to play one of those godforsaken asymmetric tactics that Ryan loves so much. I will not play one of those. That part of me, of the beauty of the game, and football, that is, not just FM, is sort of the symmetry and balance of the whole thing. So I said, you know what, let me try. I haven't really ever played the 4-4-2 diamond. And it's interesting. I've had some mixed results with it, some good, some bad. It's hard to tell yet. It's still way, way too early in the season, but it's interesting. It changes things. I mean, it's narrow. It forces me to think about things a little differently than I had before.
Yeah.
Where to get the width and how not to get exposed on defense and that. And so we'll see where it goes, but it's an interesting piece. But yeah, that whole that catalyst to really rethink what you're looking at is it's such an interesting piece because there are so many times where you get attached where I'm just going to do this. I know it's good. I just need better players. And sometimes you really need a critical look and say, no, it doesn't really matter how good the guys are. that I plug into this that I can afford. It's just not going to work relative to the competition that I have to play with.
I think it's as you say. It's I mean you going with a narrow tactic. I mean I don't think you're going to be up against many in France who are using it, are you? So I guess you're controlling the middle.
Yeah, so most of what I'm seeing in France, I do run into the occasional 4-4-2, um, some 4-3-3 varieties, mostly a defensive mid and two wide men, um, and then 4-2-3-1s are seem to be pretty popular. Although, and I'll gripe about the game a little bit, and this is the tactical variety that you seem to run into in the game is lacking. Um, you seem to see the same stuff over and over and over again. Now, okay, you can argue that I haven't figured out how to beat it, so that's not the end of the world, and I shouldn't complain about seeing some, Guardiola-esque dual inverted wingback formation. But to be fair, it didn't work for him either. Uh, but you,
See, I would
it's
I
no,
would
go
say
ahead.
I wouldn't. See, I don't blame Football Manager for that, to an extent. But the issue is the researchers, and that is because when I research for a couple of clubs around here, one of the things you input is the formation the clubs like, the tempo, that kind of thing. Um, and I think a lot of the problem is, especially when you go outside of the likes of Man City, Man United, etc. And when you go to them lower leagues, when you go to them the lesser nations, the likes of Norway, Slovakia, Slovenia, I'm thinking of vanilla version teams, even the likes of Australia, maybe for example, the researchers are not putting in all of that information. Now, is it because they are just updating the squads, etc., through the internet? Probably a few of them do, especially in Norway, because there's such a vast distance to teams. I mean, the teams who wanted me to research, they said, oh, well, they're right next year. One of them was 2.5 hour journey.
Hmm.
So is that an issue? But then should the game be opened up a lot more to, instead of saying, oh, well, you've got to be on the research panel, why not just contact fan clubs of the teams, and do you know what I mean, and
Sure.
try to expand the researcher side of it in terms of, look, if 10 people input information on this team, are 7 of them roughly the same information? If they are, then that's what we're going to go with. Do you know what I mean? Like, kind of
Huh.
come up with some
But
sort of
even
way of kind of just expanding it so you do have the proper club's formation, the proper club's information for starting.
but even bigger than that, right? I mean, to me, it wouldn't. You expect the game over time to adapt, so maybe that would improve the starting seasons or two. But I would say, it seems almost like a missing feature to me where the clubs really do adapt and change. You'll get, almost, I mean, there are folks sort of in that same sort of Guardiola-esque mentality that tinker and adjust and play with formations and styles and things like that. And I think the game feels, relatively static
Yeah,
overall, in comparison to what I would expect. I wouldn't expect, and maybe you can chime in as sort of a real life manager, right? I wouldn't expect you to sort of play the same 4-4-2 for forever just on account of because, right? Okay, if it's working, maybe you stick to it, but if it doesn't, I would expect that you'd try something different, fool around, different anything. And I just feel like the game doesn't really introduce sort of a whole lot of diversity on that front. So at some point, you fool around with enough tactics till you figure out how to beat what's regionally there, and then you can pretty much ride that, all the way to the bank, on some level. And that was something I was thinking a lot about in the off season was, is there a way to kind of combat it? So I went narrow because a lot of, basically to stuff up the whole midfield and force teams to go wide. I haven't seen a lot of great wide players so far that I've run to in across in League One. A lot of stronger midfielders, stronger attacking mid. So if I clog the middle of the field, I think with the right players, I can pretty much stuff up most teams. Now, I'm not going to compete with teams that are outspending me, sort of 10x to what I can spend, but at least it gives me a shot
Yeah.
at it. But it just feels like at some point I would expect that if I figured out how to do that and I was clogging up the league, I'd say, yeah, maybe I get one good season out of it, but I would expect the rest of the league to look at it in the offseason and say, yeah, we see what he's doing and start to adjust what's going on so that as time went on, you ended up with a little more, I don't know, competitiveness and adjustment.
Well, I think you've got to. I mean, as you say, do people just go with this formation because? Well, no, they don't. Do teams constantly run out the same tactic no matter what? No, I mean most of the teams we come up against played 4-5-1.
Mm,
But then it's as you say, you'd expect teams to see what's happening. I mean, a prime example is me going to scout a team called Undheim this year. We were due to play them in a couple of weeks. At the time when I went to scout them, obviously. And I noticed every time they had a movement, their wingers were coming in, and they had a midfielder who was going up. So they were basically playing four very narrow strikers almost, and all set pieces, free kicks, goal kicks were going long. And two of them were very quick, two of them were very tall, so very clear, flick and run.
right.
So straight away going into that game, I mixed it up. I played two defensive midfielders instead of only the one we normally play, and we won the game 3-0. Every set piece, my fullbacks tucked in, my two defensive midfielders dropped in front of the defence, and we basically formed a massive wall which they couldn't get through. Everything was going long. It was 6 against 4, and the two defensive midfielders I played were about 6'3". So I said, well, if you want to go long, you're not going to win anything because one of them's a tank and the other one's fantastic in the air. So it's you would hope the game does mix it up, and they definitely do counter you a little bit. And that is improved. And I do think they are trying to improve in terms of the game, understanding how you're playing and then mixing it up. But then you would kind of hope they then start to throw different things at you, like are they going to sign? Like I've never looked at a team on Football Manager and like when you're playing in a league. And for example, you have Arsenal. Let's use Arsenal on FM 16. Hector Bellerin,
Okay.
top assist guy in the game.
Right.
So straight away, to me, that would tell you that the opposition surely should start to play maybe someone a bit more defensive on the wing, to help against marking him. But you never used to see that. And I never used to see a team strengthening where they should. In terms of
Sure.
if a team didn't really score many goals, you would never see them buy a striker over the summer.
Right.
So I guess it's more just about the game being more intelligent is what you're hoping for in terms of the tactical side of it, which is you kind of do hope as the game evolves and continues to develop, you would hope that does happen.
Yeah, I think it's a certain responsivity to the whole thing that I think, and you've seen it in some places. I think in some YouTube saves. I think the one I think, if memory serves me correct, you sort of spoke the most about it in some cases is second yellow card. If you watch some of his series, he'll talk a bit about it as he's not a he says, look, I'm a self-admitted not a tactical god, but he tinkers around and plays around and then basically finds the couple that beat all of the opponents that he's going to run into, and then tweaks the players that he's got, and all of a sudden sort of you can tell it's like at once that clicks in, he
Yeah,
basically steamrolls all the way to the end.
yeah.
And I think on some level that's sort of how the game works is you've got to tinker and mess and tinker and play, and then all of a sudden you'll find the formula, it'll click, and you'll just steamroll everything. And at that point, the question becomes, well, is it really, you just sort of stop and go on to the next challenge
Is
where
it a
you tinker
game,
and find.
or are you playing the game? Are you winning the game, or are you exploiting the game? That's where the question then you've got to kind of almost ask yourself, you've got to kind of almost say to yourself, well, am I going to purpose not do that? When a few years ago you had the corner tactic, your centre back could score 30, 40 goals a season from a corner. So I mean, some people used it and said, "Oh, I've won the Premier League," and other people like myself would purposely avoid it because it's an exploit.
Sure.
And tactics become an exploit. So you've got to then ask yourself: is it an exploit or is it just a really good, nice, like, is it a really good tactic which is just working well with the players you've got? Or are you exploiting something within the game, within the match engine, within the coding of the game, which is making you a lot more successful than you should be, and you're not actually playing the game, you're cheating the game. And I
Right.
don't mean cheating at the game, cheating the game, as in taking advantage of an exploit.
Right.
But I mean, as you were talking there about going into the season and kind of switching the tactic up, and why did I see it, or why, like, when people just sit back and they think, oh, I just need better players, and where the actual issue is the tactic. I think 10 games into the season I was second bottom. Bear in mind, this is back in the Van Ram National League North, with the exact same squad. In fact, improves the squad from the team that actually won promotion 2 years before. Um, and that was when I kind of decided, because my winger started complaining. Bridges, he started complaining. I said to myself, right, you know what? I'm not going to play you. You're complaining about wanting to leave the club. You've come through our youth academy. I gave you a chance. You've gone on for years about how grateful you are about the chance to play for the club, and now you want to leave. So that was, I kind of said to myself, I don't really have any other right winger apart from one guy I'd signed, who was I brought in as a backup, and stupidly gave him a £500 a week appearance fee. Now he was on a non-contract, but £500 a week was a lot. So
Sure.
that actually convinced me to change tactic, was the fact I didn't really have a right winger. And my right back, even though he can't play wing back, his stats are decent for that position. So I thought, well, my left winger is an awesome wing back, and that's that Evans guy.
Right.
And my left back cocked up so many times last season, I wasn't too disappointed about the chance to drop him. Um, so, yeah, I mean, no right winger and a left back who pissed me off. I thought, well, right back moves up a little bit, left winger drops back a little bit. We'll play three centre backs. I signed an 18-year-old centre back who I think has got a lot of potential. So I thought, I'll throw him in, put him in as one of the three, have the most experienced one of the three in the middle. And my second half of the season form, I think, would have got me playoffs stroke automatic promotion. So I really am hoping that we can now push on over the summer. I think a centre back and a striker, possibly a backup wing back. And then I think I'm set. I'm pretty much happy with the rest of the team. We sit in mid-table. There's nothing really to play for at the minute because there's about 9 games to go. We're definitely not going down this time, so there is actually nothing to play for. But yeah, it's just it's one of them saves. I'm enjoying playing it, and yeah, I'm going to be on it tomorrow morning, I think.
Cool. You have no idea how hard it was to hold back when you said you found an 18-year-old with a lot of potential. I
Do
just
you know
want to
what?
say, I just want to say you threw that softball up
I know.
and
I'm
I
sorry.
took the pitch. I
Can I
took the
just
pitch.
say that this is one of the things which a lot of people like. Somebody messaged me saying, why didn't you just go and check out this team and, like, check out all their youngsters? Someone messaged me about that, and it got us all talking. There was me, yourself, and a couple others in the chat, and we were talking about like the easy way of playing almost. And I said, well, how am I going to do that? I said, I can't see any of the stats. I can't afford to scout them because it's just scouting the full youth team is going to cost. I think it'll be about £7,000 to £8,000. And I think people don't take into account the scouting costs. And that's because so many people experts, with my hands doing the obviously sarcastic quoting marks. The experts who will tell you a guide on how to find players who don't have attribute masking on, which means they can just see everything. And it doesn't take into account the cost of the scouting, the cost of waiting for that can cost you the player because he ends up going somewhere else. Um,
Sure.
there's a lot to take in when you're scouting properly. And I mean, I've always said it. I personally will never take advice from somebody who doesn't use attribute masking because they are cheating themselves and cheating other people if they are writing guides pretending to be an expert in scouting when, in my opinion, you're taking out the actual scouting part because there's no reason to scout when you can see everything about them.
Sure.
And if I want advice on how to go and click on a team and then click on a player's name, I mean, my son can give me that advice because it's not rocket science to go and click on a team, then click on the name and go, oh, he's all right, done. Well, that was easy, wasn't it? I mean, hey, if life was only that easy. So, Colin, how did you find that guy? Well, I got told that PSG have good youngsters, so I clicked on the name, then I went to the youth team and I clicked on a player, and I could see everything. So I signed him. Well, that made life easy, didn't it?
Sure. No, and I was talking a bit about that in a couple of my episodes this week that from a scouting perspective, I will fully admit that the situation with LaHarve is probably more unique than most saves, right? So I'm one of the rules I set for myself at the beginning, right, is I only want to use French or um, sort of French colony, former French colony players. For the most part, I just scout France. I have a big enough budget with my team and a
All
big
right,
enough
stop
number
showing
of
off.
scouts. But to your point, right, is I can basically camp a scout at every team in League One and just constantly, I can basically just rotate and say like, yeah, just watch the strikers,
Yeah,
watch the left wing, watch the right. So it's almost as if I'm playing without or with the attribute masking in a sense that I'm scouting such an absolutely narrow pool that I can make almost perfect decisions, right? In
yeah,
in that sense, I send I have a scout who watches the French under 19s. That's all he does. I have damn near perfect knowledge on the entire population of France's under 19s because I don't care about anybody else's under 19s because I'm not going to scout them. And I get an endless barrage of emails in my inbox going, "Oh, we should go scout Brazil. We should go scout Argentina. We should go scout, everywhere else." And it's like,
your
no,
your
no, no, no,
your
no.
your scouts just want a holiday at that point.
Yeah, at that point it's like, oh, they really want to go and see anywhere else. And it's like, no, your job is to watch, Lorient. I don't care. Just watch them. Record everything you've ever imagined about the guys you see at Lorient. And I got a guy whose whole life is like chase the French under 23s around. I don't care. That's it. Just follow them around everywhere they go. And I will admit, it does make things a lot simpler because it is so
But no,
narrow.
but you're
And I'm
scouting
big at
if you're doing it
sure.
properly. Because if you went to Brazil, like now on your save, if you just click to your player, sorry, to your scout, okay, yeah, go on then, go to Brazil. He would have no knowledge. He would go there and go, oh, well, I can tell you that guy's got attribute between 1 and 20.
Right.
So it's not like you're making life easy for yourself because you've specifically spent seasons, not just weeks, seasons scouting the French league. So you
Sure.
deserve the fact that you know everything you can about most of the players.
Yeah, and I think that it sets it up nicely. So I mean, if there are people who want to get in and understand scouting more and want to get in better to understand some of that kind of stuff, I'd say set a save where you're going to give yourself a regionally specific population of players that you want to draw from, and you can basically almost get yourself back to attribute masking turned off in a relatively reasonable time. I mean, it takes a season or so to kind of get in a groove and get it set up right and all that. Um, but you can basically get yourself there, and then see how to get scouts, how to get information out, how to keep doing it, and you can find your way into it. But yeah, I will fully admit I feel like I'm in a bit of an easier situation in that I just don't have that many places to go and hunt. So
Well,
it's not as big a deal. Like I'm not trying to create this worldwide web of
yeah.
scouts. And then again, to your point, being in a financially different place, it doesn't really matter. A, it doesn't cost me nearly as much to go send somebody from Le Havre to Paris, or even if I'm going all the way down to the south to Marseille. It's just not that big a deal. It's not like I'm sending guys all over the world. So um, it's financially very different for me and the club situation that
Well, I
I'm in.
mean, one thing I've noticed, and I've been doing a few tests on this, and people know I am trying to put a post together about scouting costs. But the so far the costs are very, very weird. In terms
Hmm.
of an ongoing scouting mission, seems to take a massive chunk season month one. Then month two there was nothing. I don't know if that's due to the fact he didn't find any players that month, but he was still looking. Um, so I'm
You'd
doing a
think there would be
few.
a hotel bill in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm doing well, basically. So I'm doing a few more tests in terms of with larger databases, with smaller clubs, bigger clubs, and stuff like. I mean, with my Darlington save, the only players I really do scout are local players, and again, it's me trying to stay realistic. So we're based in West Auckland, so I will go up to the likes of Blythe, and I will go down maybe as far as Accrington, maybe tip Manchester, maybe tip the likes of Hull, down around Leeds, that area. But most of my scouting is the northeast. It's up to Blythe. It's scouting the likes of South Shields, around that area, and it's just it. It makes it, in my opinion, it's one of the most satisfying parts of the game is when you come across a player, and when you've been scouting for so long and you find that gem who comes into your team and he just is unbelievable. He scores a lot, he defends fantastic, he keeps the clean sheets, and you know that you've spent time searching, and that's why, in my opinion, that's how I like to play the game. I'm not saying people play with attribute masking off, or is it on? Whichever, the one way you can see all the stats. I'm not saying that's the wrong way to play, I'm not saying that at all. It just frustrates me when I see guides on how to scout and they they've not scouted. They've just clicked on a team, and it's like,
Sure,
okay, brilliant, good job, but you've not actually done. You've not actually done what you're saying you did.
sure.
Which, but yeah, it's just I actually was going to say something else, but I can't remember what it was. So over to you, Colin.
Yeah, that happens. I had a follow. I was thinking of a follow up question, and I had the same problem. So, but looking at my desk, the beer is getting low, so we should transition topics. So, I wanted to cover one last thing before we talk about saves, upcoming plans with our saves and our community picks. You and I had a deep discussion this week about sort of I'll call it the Chelsea-esque, although I believe the vein you were complaining about was a relative to um, Italy, of sort of the mass loan policy where you go
Oh,
and absorb a crap load of youth and then loan them all out, loan them all back out
do you know what?
again.
For people who don't know, Colin picks the topics for the podcast, and he sent me them a few minutes before we started recording, because I like to kind of wing it and just say what I'm thinking. And when I saw this topic, I literally had no idea why this topic was in because I totally forgot about this discussion we had until now. Basically, I think it was Mateus, wasn't it, who
Could be.
said to me to go manage in Italy, which he thought would be funny. I lasted about 2 days within the game and rage quit with the absurd amount of loan players I had at my club. It was just stupid, Colin. It was just stupid. Oh, I thought about what I was going to say.
Okay.
People who say they don't play that through masking on because they don't have the time because they have a job or a family. That is the most stupid beeping excuse I've ever heard in my life. I don't have time to play the game with more detail because I'm busy. Well, here's an idea. Maybe just do that one season less over the 365 days that this game is out before the new release.
Mhm. True.
You'd think they were on a time limit. Um, oh, I've got to play the season within a week, or like I get an electric shock. It's been so pathetic with the worst excuse in the world. It's honestly, it's pathetic. And if anyone does use that excuse and I've now offended you, get over it. Pathetic.
I figured you were
But
going to give out
yeah,
my
I
Twitter
mean,
handle there.
yeah, at FM_Yank. Remember to like and subscribe. Um,
Absolutely. Like and subscribe. You can send all the abuse you want, just like and subscribe.
so yeah, I decided to start. I think it was Regina, because I like the stadium's quite big. They had a bit of history. I thought, oh, do you know, I'd rebuild a giant and all that. Start in Italy, kind of get over my hatred of the country.
We're
If any
working on
Italian
that. But
fans are listening, hi,
by the
we
time
love
I'm
you.
done, you will at least appreciate Italian football.
Well, I mean, so I did this. So I loaded it up. I must have had about 12 loan players. And about 6 of my own squad who were actually worth talking about. The rest of them could just gone straight in the bin. So I thought, you know what? Balls to that crap. I'm not playing with a team who's got 12 loan players. It's just stupid. I mean, come on. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the
Well, I
team would
mean,
be
right. But think about right Vitesse in the Dutch.
another
Yeah,
stupid
they're
team.
in the Eredivisie. They're basically Chelsea too.
If anyone
But
from
I guess,
Vitesse is listening, you're stupid.
but is it really? I mean, so I will fully admit, right? So I've got a ton of young players in my reserves and my under-19s, which are flying. But I'll probably have 20 guys out on loan at this
But then
point.
that's fine. I mean, in my opinion, I think there should be some sort of different system, like Le Havre 2 playing in the French fourth tier, for example, who you sent them to. Like, I've got a second save with Academica, which we'll go into in a second. My B team is in the third level. All of my players are there. The players who I don't need are there. When we look at the likes of Chelsea in real life and obviously on FM, their squad size is just insane. Should it be allowed? There's no reason why not. Should there be a limit on the amount of players available to play in the Premier League? Yes, you should have a set squad which you got to register, which they do. So then obviously the rest have to do something. Now this is where you've got to say, well, one, why can't they have a B team or a like some? Do you know what I mean? Like the reserve team, why can't the reserve team play in the leagues lower down? I don't see a problem with that. I think it could make it a bit. It could make it interesting. It could. I mean, people say it could destroy low league football. Why? Because more fans go to watch these players playing for the teams. I don't get it. I mean, destroy low league football. 90% of them are skint. So I'm sure if you say to Akron and Stanley, okay, Chelsea B are going to play tonight, and because Diego Costa's been out injured, they've registered him for the whole of January because it's a transfer window. They've registered him play for Chelsea B, so he's going to come and play at Accrington tonight. I don't think Accrington are going to go, oh, this isn't good. They're going to say, stick him on a poster and get more fans through the door. But in terms of loaning players like Inter Milan to Regina, loaning 10, 12 players to that club, I don't agree with that. I think they either should have a B team or they just shouldn't have so many players. I don't know. To be honest with you, I just kind of went on a rant when I saw how many loan players I had.
Well, it's an interesting piece, right? Because I mean, it's something I think about is that a lot of times when I'm bringing players in, I'm specifically not thinking about keeping them at the club. I look at my, high profile guys that come in through youth intakes and guys that I think are really high potential, and I want to keep them in board for at least a while I can watch them a little closer and develop, and then send them out to see what they do and give them a better evaluation before I can see it. Now
Yeah.
you talk about squad registration. I think my squad right now of registered players is like 55. I have a huge squad, but between reserves, the first team, and my under 19s. But I'm constantly hunting for all of those, to see does the potential work or not work. And we were investing in our youth facilities more to try and bring those kinds of players through, just to see, are they going to pop out, and am I going to end up with the next Pogba, or sort of whatever on that front. But it's just an interesting piece. I'd be curious if people want to send us some feedback. How do you handle sort of the loan thing, and do you have a beef with sort of the mass loan um, policy of some of the clubs? I would be curious what folks have to say on that. But
Hashtag the Northman's right. Or
okay,
hashtag FM Yanks wrong. Whichever. Either way, it'll be funny.
yeah, I don't think so, there, boss.
Nah. Or hit us up
Okay,
on Twitter.
yeah,
But,
do get to us so that we can tell. Do get to us, because I would be interested to hear what people have to think. So, before we do our community picks, since I've only got a few more sips of beer left, which means we are getting close to the
I've got
end.
no coffee left. I've run out.
Well, that definitely means we're getting close to the end. Save stuff. What do you have coming up? I know you have an Academica save, so why don't you talk a little bit about that, and we'll talk about what we got coming up.
Technically, I could announce something really big right now, which is obviously the thing me and you working on, because
Ah,
that's where the Academica thing is, and I'm kind of going to post a little bit on Facebook about it, but mainly it's on there,
okay,
kind of just in the forum bit.
okay.
Um, so basically, myself and Colin, and with the expertise help of a friend of ours, Darren, have been putting a website together. So people might follow it on Twitter at the F Managers, and it's thefootballmanagers.com. Getting put together now, Colin, isn't it? Look, coming along nicely. Hopefully for
Yeah,
release next month.
starting to gel. We've got a lot of, we're hoping to build a new sort of uh, community center point, so a place where people can come and interact about FM, write, and get their, start writing and working on stories and sharing information and ideas and content without sort of the burden of going out and creating your own, sort of bloggers and WordPress
Now,
sites and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, I
So it's an
mean,
opportunity in a forum to share stories, to share all kinds of information. Hopefully, a more usable forum scheme. I think we've taken a lot of what we like and don't like about stuff we've seen in the community and tried to fix it and make it better. So we're very excited to get it out there. Like you said, hopefully next month. Um, and we
you can
would love
imagine
to.
how that went with my ranting in terms of picking what we do and don't like from around the community.
Well, I think this is an opportunity for people to come and share. It also makes our life easier for the podcast, and that it gives a central place for people to come and share new content, which certainly makes it easier to find for us, so we can help get it out to the rest of the community.
Community pick our site. Thanks for watching. That'd be quite
Not
funny,
quite,
actually.
not quite. But so it's been a fun project. I certainly been an educational experience, and again, as you said, a huge shout out to Darren for all the help he's been in all of the nitty gritty behind the scenes of getting it. So we are very excited about it. There'll be a whole bunch more. I think we'll dedicate a spot either for the Christmas edition or the New Year's edition for talking some more about what's in there and what you can expect from the site. And as Paul said, hopefully in another few more
I think
weeks
a
we
couple
will
of
be
weeks.
we'll be open for folks to come in and see what's there and begin to participate
Yeah,
on that front.
I think our hope is January will be uploaded as a test month in terms of all feedback goes towards continuing the build. That's what we hope anyway. But in terms of what the plans are for the saves, so I've got my Darlington one on YouTube. I
Hmm.
do actually have a very, very big project planned in the new year, which is going to be on the website.
Ooh.
Which is actually going to be with Egerson.
Ooh.
Now, this actually leads into the loan policy discussion, Colin, quite nicely.
Ah.
Basically because I wanted to build the Norwegian league system down to level 8. And level 7 is where Bjerkreim are based. That was the main reason I wanted to do it, so myself was playable. And the club I managed is playable. But My plan was to take charge of Egerson. Now, between Egerson in level 3 and level 8, you have Egerson, you have Egerson 2, and Egerson 3. Now, my plan was to basically build the perfect club and do it in terms of a not a template, not a like a graph, but in terms of a really nice format which has like 7 or 8 rules for the perfect club, and each season we look at how close to that I've achieved it, what I've done, etc.
Right.
And using the fact that you've got the main club, then you've got the second and third club, I can drop players down to at any point. We can move players up. So you've got 3 teams within the league system, all the same. So as we were saying, a reserve team and under 19 team.
Hmm.
So I'm really excited about getting that going. Excited about bloody learning how to do it, because you've got to make all 3 teams linked into each other. So that's going to be fun to put together, Colin.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm so excited to actually get that one started, because, like I said, it's going to be a huge project of kind of building a whole club. And then because I'm close to the club, there's going to be some really cool graphics, because I can take pictures from the training, pictures from the team, etc.
Ooh.
So yeah, I'm excited.
Nope, sounds like a fun project. So, on my end, I've got 2 things going. So, we're gonna keep plugging away with La Harve. New episode out tomorrow. I apologize for Friday. Work had backed me up, and I recorded the episode and completely forgot to upload it. And I was gonna do it for Saturday, and we all can see how well that worked. So it'll come out on
Well,
Monday. I actually
Colin,
uploaded it while we were doing this.
Colin says he was doing work, but I've got a post from his missus that says he was on a Star Wars marathon.
No, she was watching the Star Wars marathon. I was I was working.
Okay, okay. Do you know what? I'll believe this time. This time.
I was. I promised you I was.
Scout on her.
Uh, but I during the conversation here, I have it uploading to YouTube, so it will be there tomorrow. I promise. But the other thing I'm going to do over the holiday season is I'm actually off the end of the week and all of next week, so I am going to binge record a ton of episodes and close out Truro City from FM 16. So I'm going to take it all the way to hopefully the Champions League, at least a Premier League title, if not a Champions League title. I'm going to binge record, and then I will upload all the episodes in one gigantic block, hopefully around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day time frame, and then folks can watch out the rest of that series. I've been dying to complete it out, but with FM 17 and Lahar sort of taking over and grabbing my interest, I didn't get a shot to do it as I wanted to, but I promise you I'm going to binge play, because I got a bunch of time while my wife is away at work over the next week or two, and I'm home. I'm going to do this because I want to complete it. It was such a fun project during FM 16, and I want to complete it. So you can stay tuned for that. I understand it's a little FM 16 content, but still should be fun nonetheless.
Indeed, I'm actually excited. Champions League, here we come.
Amen. So we'll see what we can do. First order of the day is just hang around in the Premier League. So since the coffee and the beer is run, that means we are on the last segment of the show. Community picks. So I will give you my 3, and then Paul, you can take your 3.
Okay.
And we will call it an episode. So my 3 community picks, a favorite blogger of mine, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know I definitely post his content. I actually joked when I retweeted it before we started recording that I was going to plug it here as well. It is yamyamfm.wordpress.com. His Oxford United save with FM 17 is still going on. Some good stuff there. Good writer, interesting content. So something to read. I enjoy reading him at lunch when I'm at work. And then my other 2 are going to be YouTube level picks this week, so switching it up a little bit. As folks know, I'm in the U.S., and I am certainly an MLS fan, to say the least. Great great matchup last week between the Sounders and TFC for MLS Cup 2016, and a congratulations to the Sounders on a penalty kick win, and a very
Their
good one at
first
that.
MLS.
Their first MLS Cup. But going to throw out to Brian Gendo, Gendo FM on YouTube, who's doing a rebuilding of the Chicago Fire. So for folks who know anything about MLS, the Chicago Fire were an early powerhouse in the league, and have fallen on disastrous times. So I'm really enjoying his series, rebuilding one of the cornerstone teams of MLS. So if you want to learn about MLS, he does a great job of explaining a lot of the ins and outs of the league, as well as the fun he has playing it. And then the last one is there's a little sneak peek preview. So the Finn FM, for those who follow, Willie from way up north in Finland, who's an absolute awesome guy. And he threw out a preview episode for The North Will Rise Again with FC Hansa. So it will be interesting to see him back on YouTube doing a little FM 17 action from way up near the Arctic Circle. Yeah.
I will be watching that as soon as we're done here.
It's just a quick little preview episode. There wasn't a whole lot to it, but I'm looking forward to it. I enjoyed a lot of what he did in FM 16. As I said, he is a great guy, a lot of fun to talk to, and just a really, really cool player, and just a really great guy. So I'm looking forward to what he does. So I'll throw out the teaser so more people check out the teaser, and we'll see what he does.
You little tease.
Absolutely.
Indeed. Okay, so myself.
So you're up, sir.
Hello. So first one is again FM Acid Fire 21, and again another great week of content on his Twitter account at FM Acid Fire 21. You just can't beat a save, which it just hooks you in. Really great post, and as I said, the account is there for Football Manager, so you know what you're getting. The next one is a new post by Cleon on csportscentre.com. His Sheffield United series, new episode called The Flawed Invincibles. Definitely worth checking out. Again, great writer, one that can suck you into the long form, as people know. I only like the long form when it's actually good. And the third one is a forum pick, Colin. Oh, it's going to be a rival to us in time. Don't worry, I'll stop using this phone when we get our site. Yeah, screw them.
Hey, good content knows no boundaries.
Indeed, unless it's not on our site and it's crap. Sorry, actually, Colin will be telling me now that I've got to say that's a joke, just for people who don't get my humour. Okay, so this is from a guy called Palmer1993. Now, I actually know him from way back because I actually started my online Football Manager experience in NeoSeeker on NeoSeeker's Football Manager forums. So on the Football Manager 2017 forum, Palmer1993 has started the Youth Academy Challenge. Now, basically what you do is you go into the editor, you find a club or create a club, and you go into the stadium and the facility section, and you make the training, youth coaching, youth facilities, and youth recruitment all 20. And then what you do is you literally only sign players through the youth recruitment. Very simple, to be honest with you. Makes sense. Youth recruitment challenge. And then you just try to take a club all the way to the top just using the youth products, youth academy products. Really good journey, really fun to watch as people get up near the Premier League and you only sign players, but you only use them players through your youth academy. Definitely makes it a challenge. Even with all 20s, you only might get one or two every couple of years who are that good for your first team, Colin. So definitely makes it fun, really enjoyable, and yeah, just a all round good thing to see or do, whatever way we're going to say it.
No, I will have to check in on that one as well. So there you go, folks. That is the end of this week's episode. The coffee and beers are drained. We are in desperate need of a refill, so we will call it an episode here. Again, if you've got content that you'd like us to check out, absolutely let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, leave comments on YouTube, make comments on SoundCloud, whatever it takes. I promise this week the download on SoundCloud will be much, much smaller. I have solved that technical glitch, so I promise that that will be fixed from here on out. And otherwise, I hope everyone has a great week. We will see you back here next week for our post-holiday episode. So for those
We
who are
wish
out
you a Merry Christmas.
yeah, for those who are celebrating Christmas next week, have a Merry Christmas. I hope everyone has an enjoyable holiday season and a start of a wonderful Hanukkah if you celebrate that as well.
Oh,
I
nice.
believe,
Mix it.
yes, I think yesterday was the start of Festivus, so enjoy a Merry Festivus. And I will apologize, but I'm not sure when Kwanzaa is this year. But if that is of yours, enjoy it as well. But until next time, we will see you then. So, bye now.
Here comes the music.